Hey ho everybody, welcome to part 2 of the 12 most terrifying ghost stories. Now, let's get back to it. You'll have to watch the last video to see what's happening in this story. Being a little kid, and it only being a few days from Christmas, I knew what this light was. It was Santa! How else could he get into my house and know I was being a good boy? I was so excited I began walking down the stairs to greet him, picking up my pace after a second step as it began to creep off the wall to fade into darkness in my living room. That's when I heard him, a very strong masculine voice, different from the first, not at all like my father's. It said, "Stop, right now. Go back up those stairs." I listened, turned around, and when and what happened next, I am not sure I would believe it some if someone had told me the same story. After reaching the top of the stairs, I heard a very loud crash that sent me running back to my mother's bed, where I jumped straight under the covers and stayed there the whole night. When we woke the next morning, the poinsettia, whatever, little Christmas flower lights that glowed red, my mother had put on the railing down the stairs, were pulled straight down to the bottom of the stairs, some broken from what seemed like a forceful tear, laying in a single pile. The the dry sink in my living room had fallen from the wall. My mother could not explain it. My father was worried we had been the victims of a home invasion. My sister was crying. There was nothing missing. Nobody had broken in. There did not seem to be any reason this had happened. And then I saw it. It kept quiet about it because I was so afraid that I could not force words out of my mouth. There, on the edge of the wooden dry sink, which had been facing up, where indentations where the finish on the wood had been worn, almost as if in a forceful grip, something down there had grabbed it and threw it down. That was what the bang was. I was mortified. After that day, I never heard a single voice again. I did not like to imagine what was waiting downstairs for me at night, if it was anything at all, but I could tell you that the reality was that something was physically acted upon two things in my house near the bottom of that stairwell. After this, never I had never heard another whisper again, which is sad because in some ways I would have liked to thank the man that had stopped me from going down the stairs. This happened when I was 7. I am 20 years old now, and because of this incident, I am still afraid of the dark, especially shadowy stairwells. This one's kind of a short one. My grandfather told me this story about how one time he was sitting in a chair in front of the house when he heard his wife repeatedly calling for him from inside the house. The thing is, my grandmother passed away a few years before that, but he told me that the voice was so pressing that he actually got up to look inside the house. And as soon as he got inside, he heard a loud crash behind him and turned around to see that the chair he has been sitting in moments ago had been crushed in a cast by a cast iron gutter that fell on it. If he hadn't come inside the house, he would have probably been seriously injured. I don't know if it's paranormal or not, but every time I think about it, it sends chill down my spine. I was babysitting my niece once while I was staying at my brother's place, and then they had the baby camera set up so I could see her in the little TV it came with. I was studying and started dozing off when I heard some whispering and realized it was coming from the monitor. I intentionally thought it was some feedback or something, but when I looked at the TV, there was a dark shadow near my niece's crib. I have never been more terrified in my life, but when the shadow was clearly there where it had not been before, I ran to my niece's room and looked around and saw nothing. But I took her the heck out of there. I went back to the TV and the shadow was clearly gone. I told my brother what happened, and he pulled me aside and told me not to mention it to my sister-in-law because she'll freak out, but that he had seen the same thing several times now, with the same whispering. They stayed at the house for about 4 more years, and when my niece was just learning to talk, she would tell her mom about her special friend. To this day, it scares the out of me. When they moved out, my brother told me his niece had become inconsolably, what, I can't pronounce that, sad, because she would miss her friend. Her mom would tell her she could bring him along, but all she would say was that he couldn't leave the house. We have never to this day told her about the shadow, and she uh per apparently wow, never saw it. Okay, I don't have a picture for this one either. I didn't know that's what it was called until much later. I was living in a house in Laguna Beach that had been there since the 1920s. In its history, it has been a speakeasy, a brothel, and a house for smuggling illegal immigrants. One day my new wife and I were having an argument. I can't even recall what it was about. She to walked down the block to get a cup of coffee and cool off, and I was alone in the house. The way the place was built was incredibly hazard. I don't know, that's a weird word. Whatever. There was a bedroom and living room on one side, and the bathroom was two entries. On the other side of the bathroom was a hallway that had windows on one side and two bedrooms on the other. From my bedroom I could look across the hall into the bathroom. Then through the bathroom and down the other hall. I was standing at my dresser and just noticed movement out the corner of my eye. I looked down there was, and honest to God, this gives me goosebumps, just typing it, 17 years later, a black figure. It was maybe 3 feet tall, and it was only vaguely humanoid. It looked black, like, oh my God. It looked like black scribbles. Like someone had scribbled a human shape, but the scribbles moved with like electricity arching. That's the best way to describe it. There was no sound that I could remember. I distinctly remember when I saw it. I wasn't afraid, just like WTF. Then it noticed me looking at it. I can't say it turned around. It just focused on me, I guess. Then I was scared. I didn't move, didn't scream, nothing. I was just frozen because it just freaking came at me. It rushed down the hall towards me. I have no idea what it intended, but as soon as it entered the bathroom door, the door closest to me just slammed shut on it. I screamed. I yelled for my wife. She wasn't home. I went the frick outside into the daylight and didn't go back until she got home about 10 minutes later. I don't believe in ghosts. I don't believe I saw something supernatural, but I know it was something. I don't know what it was. I know that's not all 12, but they're very, 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 very long stories, these. And I'm not that much of a fluent reader, so I hope you like this. If you would like to, if you have an idea for a top 12, make sure to put it in the comments. Don't forget to like, favorite, subscribe for more content, and best of all, comment down below. Peace off.